Hello everyone, I'm Meteorologist Charlie Ironmonger. Thank you so much for joining me today. I want to get right into your news. We've got news out of Craven County where an embezzlement suspect has been arrested. Now, this is again news out of Craven County. According to deputies, Michael Trowbridge was arrested on December 1st for felony embezzlement in excess of $30,000. Now, back on October 1st, the sheriff's office says it got a report about a larceny at a business on Trent Boulevard in New Bern. An investigation led deputies to identify 50-year-old Trowbridge as the suspect in the crime. The man was placed in the Craven County Jail. On to other news in Surf City. A crews battled a duplex fire earlier this morning. The town of Surf City Fire Department says it was called to the fire at 414A North Shore Drive early on in the morning. At the Oceanside duplex, first responders found flames at the back of the building and quickly began working to put the fire out. Now, 2 nearby buildings were also damaged in the fire, according to the fire department. Now, the fire was completely put out and no injuries were reported, according to the fire department. Along with Surf City, the Topsail Beach Fire Department, North Topsail Beach Fire Department, Pender EMS and Fire and Surf City Police also responded to the call. And I also want to draw your attention to a story out of Kinston, where a Wilmington man is now facing many drug charges after a traffic stop. Now, on Friday, just before 9 p.m., Kinston police officers pulled over 30-year-old Wasim Ismail in the 1300 block of North Queen Street. During the traffic stop, officers say they observed narcotic violations, which led them to search Ismail's car. Officers found and seized more than 66 pounds of prepackaged THC, 11 pounds of marijuana, drug paraphernalia, electronic devices, and more than $12,000 in cash. Ismail was arrested and taken to the Lenoir County Jail. He was charged with the following: 2 counts of trafficking marijuana, possession with intent to sell and deliver marijuana, possession of drug paraphernalia, money laundering, and traffic violations. Now, Ismail posted a $30,000 bond on Saturday. Now for your weather forecast. This is, of course, the big story of the day. Whether or not we are going to see snow. And right now it's looking like there are pockets of eastern North Carolina that will certainly see some snowfall. Will we see widespread snow? Not looking likely. But I don't want to completely rain on the snow parade. We will see rain showers before the snow rolls in, though. So again, if you're hoping for the flakes that they're getting in Virginia, unfortunately, we are not going to be that lucky. It is just looking like a very snowy day across Virginia, from the western part of the state all the way to the Chesapeake Bay. We've got snowfall coming down. Now, as you get closer to North Carolina, you're looking at more heat in the air, and that's keeping most of the moisture that's currently present east of I-95 coming down as raindrops. The transition will happen later on this afternoon. Anticipating around 3, 4, 5 p.m. we'll start to see some snowflakes mix in with the raindrops that will be present, and then from there that spread of snowflakes will continue its way further south, particularly for those of you watching on the western side of Highway 17. That's going to be a kind of a delineator, because the closer you get to the sounds and the ocean, the more heat will be present. The ocean's, again, warmer than freezing, quite a bit warmer, and they impact your air temperatures around the ocean. So when you get close to the water this time of year, you run into a little bit more heat, and that makes it problematic for anybody hoping to get snow along the coast. Now, do I think we could see some snow along the coast? It's a possibility, but I just think the chances are going to be far higher for those of you watching on the western side of Highway 17. This is a picture by the time we get to around 11 p.m. at night. Most, again, inland areas on the western side of Highway 17 at this point will be looking at snowflakes coming down, not rain showers. We could certainly see some accumulations at this point, particularly north of 264, kind of around Nash, Edgecombe, Halifax, Northampton, Hertford counties. Those are going to be the areas that I think could see possibly the highest snowfall accumulations out of this whole system. But as we make our way towards your Tuesday at sunrise, we lose out on the moisture, but unfortunately air temperatures are going to drop down into the mid-20s, which will lead to a freeze across eastern North Carolina for anything still on the grounds, whether that's a snowflake, some slush, or straight rain. It will be freezing overnight tonight into Tuesday morning. So if you are watching and you head out the door early on Tuesday, be aware that road conditions could certainly be rough. Now, the DOT crews are out there today doing what they can to make the roads as passable and as safe as they can coming up for Tuesday morning. But those of you maybe traveling on some secondary roads or roads that aren't really traveled as much, that may usually get missed by the DOT, understand that those roads could certainly come with some hazards tomorrow morning, particularly around bridges. We'll get to those details coming up in just a few moments. Do want to give you a look at your potential snow and sleet accumulations. This is not going to be just a snow event. There will be that transition period where we get sleet in as well, and that can really limit the amount of snowflakes that come down. I'm anticipating the highest totals right along the North Carolina-Virginia line, but we could certainly see some of those snowflakes and snow accumulations drift as far south as possibly Wilson, certainly Tarboro in the mix, Williamston as well. Bethel could certainly see some snow accumulations, as could Snow Hill, Kinston, Goldsboro, Greenville, and Washington and Chocowinity. We're not looking at a ton of snow for those areas I just mentioned, Goldsboro, Kinston, Snow Hill, Greenville, Chocowinity, and Washington, but we could certainly see some, and I know that a lot of kids are probably wondering, all right, here we go, we're going to get out early from school. Are we actually going to be seeing enough to sled? That is where the problem is. I don't think we're going to see enough to get the sleds out. So if you're a big fan of the snow cream, this could be a wonderful, wonderful time for you, especially for those of you watching north of Highway 264 and west of Highway 17. But for most of eastern North Carolina, this again is looking like mostly a rain event, a cold rain event, but there will certainly be a few of us that do collect some snowflakes. Now, as far as bridges go, for me, this is going to be the most concerning. Cold air underneath the bridge really allows those bridges to cool down at a much faster rate than normal roads, which is why you usually see those bridge ices before road signs on most of the overpasses around eastern North Carolina. This is why. Roads lose heat evenly, but if you've got those bridges that lose the heat underneath as well as on top, they cool down at a much faster rate, and that again allows anything that's on those bridges to freeze a little bit faster than the road. So you can go from the road, all of a sudden you're on the bridge, you start to slip and slide. That is the reason why, just the cooling aspect of losing the ground below the road. Here's a look at your air temperatures currently. All of eastern North Carolina right now, warmer than freezing. So we're not going to get anything to actually stick to the ground at this point. Ground temperatures also right now sitting in the 40s. We're going to need to cool everything off before we get anything to stick, and that's why we've really limited our expectations with accumulations out of this system to really just maybe an inch or two for some select communities. Those of you watching across the Crystal Coast, around New Bern, Kenansville, along the Outer Banks, you guys really aren't set up for a great snowfall event this go-round. Do want to say hello to Darnett Gardner. Thank you so much for joining me over on Facebook. As far as winds are concerned, these winds will be cooling us down. Right now, winds blowing in out of the northeast at about 12 to 22 miles an hour. Looks like the range across the region right now. Later on this afternoon, air temperatures should be falling fairly quickly as we head towards 2, 3, and 4 p.m., dropping down below freezing by the time we get to around 5, 6, 7, 8 p.m. at night. Now, those of you watching closer to I-95, you may drop down below freezing by the time we get to around 5 o'clock. Those of you watching on the eastern side of Highway 17, you may not drop below freezing until we get past 8 p.m. Regardless, we are looking at freezing conditions throughout eastern North Carolina, and overnight lows will continue to drop as we head into tomorrow morning, where overnight lows will be in the 20s. Yeah. That is freezing weather right there, enough to, again, freeze anything that remains on the ground. So the DOT crews are doing what they can to keep the roads passable tomorrow morning. Please, if you see them out, make sure you give them enough space to do their work. Understand that, yeah, they are going to be driving a little bit more slowly. So if you do find yourself in a rush, take a deep breath. Understand that, again, they are doing the work that is going to be keeping everyone safe, including you. So let them do it without too much of a hassle. 46 degrees today, turns to 41 tomorrow. And then we're back in the low to mid 50s for Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Normal this time of year is the upper 50s. So even as we warm up this week, we are still going to remain shy of our seasonal average. And then we get even colder coming up next week. Next week, again, is looking like another just cold stretch of weather. And with another opportunity for moisture in the cards, we could be talking about another opportunity for snow coming up next week, beyond, of course, just what we're going to be seeing coming up for today. Well, that's all we have time for today's noon news and weather updates. We'll be back with more news and weather at the top of the hour. Until then, I hope you all have a fantastic rest of your Monday. Hopefully, again, everybody stays free of the headaches and the hazards that come with the weather. We'll be back with all of your weather details coming up at 1 o'clock.